You're now listening to All Hog Sports, covering all Arkansas Razorback sports, such as football, basketball, baseball, and much more. Now, here's your host for today's show, Sam Stimpson.
The Razorbacks suffered their first loss of the season on Saturday to the number 12 ranked Missouri Tigers, 81-68. It was not a good day for the Razorbacks at all. Lots to talk about in this game, but first I just want to talk about forward Justin Smith and his injury. He had successful ankle surgery and he's going to be out for 3 to 6 weeks, so that's a period of time that the Razorbacks aren't going to have him, and we really struggled within the paint without having Justin Smith. If you look at the layup numbers, we were 8 from 30 on layups, and Jeremiah Tillman had a fantastic game against the Razorbacks, putting up 25 points and 9 out of 13 field goals because he was a dominant 6'10 guy in the paint, and not having the presence of somebody like Justin Smith really hurt the Razorbacks, and as Musselman said, the team is concerned. Last year when we didn't have Isaiah Joe for that 5-game stretch, we did not play our best basketball. It was not what the team really looked like and was previously and after the injury. So, you hope that you don't move into a stretch of basketball where you're going to play this way until you get him back like we did last year. But, we definitely have a little more depth and height compared to last year, but it was not on display at all during this game. And the main thing Arkansas could not do is shoot. 26.8% from the floor. 25% from three. That is not numbers that the Razorbacks have put up since SEC expansion. I think it was our third lowest since or something. Just insane numbers there. And you got to give you credit to Missouri. They're definitely a really good defensive and rebounding team. They out-rebounded us by 15. But, when you can't convert on your scoring opportunities, it's a mess. And it's going to be harder to win a lot of basketball games, especially within the SEC. 71 shots and only 19 of them got in. And then only 67.6% from the free throw line, going 23 out of 34, leaving a lot of points off there. I think the Razorbacks did do good was forcing turnovers. They got 13 steals, and Missouri had 21 turnovers. We played pretty good there, and then we also had 5 blocks, so those are some good defensive stats, but it was just not a good game for the Razorbacks at all, and the refs called a lot of fouls, and I feel like when we went into the later stretch of the game plan was to try to foul out Missouri's top players like Jeremiah Tillman and some of the other ones, but the calls just weren't there, and I think that upset Eric Musselman, and he ended up getting double teed up and ejected from the game. That's his first ejection as an Arkansas Razorback. And it's just really strange because you go 9-0, right? And you beat a team like Auburn on the road. And then you have a guy like Justin Smith, who's a big difference player on the team, and then he gets injured. Same thing happened last year with Isaiah Joe. Eric Musselman never had to deal with these injuries at Nevada, but I feel like having Isaiah Joe's injury last year, I think, can teach what happened there and realize what changes need to be made. If you watch the press conference, Musselman was concerned, and he showed that he did not want to lose that game. That's something I love about this head coach. He was concerned about going forward and didn't put any excuses on the board. You look at Chad Moore's pressers. I know this is a horrible example, but he was we're going to have to look ourselves in the mirror. There was no excuses made. Musselman said, hey, we're concerned about our team. Having a guy like Smith out for a long period of time is not good, and there are some changes that need to be made. He also said that Friday's shoot-around really didn't go too well. And when you go 9-0 with a big road SEC win, sometimes you maybe just need a reality check. I'm not sure if that's the case or not, but I'm really confident that if it was, this game could serve as that. Largest lead of the night was by 2 points, and we only kept that for, I think, less than a minute, maybe 18 seconds. It just wasn't there for the Razorbacks at all. And what really stood out to me, if you look at the box score and, what happened this game, if you look at Arkansas, Connor Vanover was 0 from 11 from the floor, and his presence there just really made it hard because he's been a guy who's been able to finish shots, get layups, and, just get quick jumpers and things like that. And he wasn't able to do that in this game. 0 for 5 from 3 as well. And there's this play we run with Vanover where he comes back, to the offensive side of the court a little late, and then we pass the ball to him and he shoots a three or shoots a jumper or something like that. And it was working against some out-of-conference opponents, but then we moved into SEC play. It really hasn't worked and hasn't been as efficient. And I think when we look at, the next few Razorback games against Tennessee, Georgia, and LSU, I think we're going to see less of that shot just because it hasn't been efficient for the Razorbacks. But I think you can still utilize his position on the court there. You can have him, get the ball there and then pass it to somebody or set up a play. There's a lot of potential to use Vanover in that situation really well because of his skill set. I think there's a lot of points, though, that were left on the scoreboard just because we couldn't finish layups. I mean, Desi Sills was also 1 from 10 from the floor. I mean, those are some of our best shooters right there. Vanover has, put a lot of points on the board throughout the game, even though he's our center. And then Sills did a tremendous job against Auburn. But, I mean, you have a guy going 37 minutes in the game and only gets 6 points, and 4 of them are all free throws. That's going to be a lot harder for the Razorbacks to win basketball games when you have, 2 of your starters not playing that well. But Moses Moody did really good, had a double-double himself, 18 points with 10 rebounds, shooting 4 for 15 from the floor. It just wasn't there for the Razorbacks, and I feel like some games you just can't shoot. And this is just one of them for the Razorbacks. But a big part of this game was the freshman Jalen Williams got 17 minutes, and he performed pretty well, 3 for 6 from the floor, 1 for 4 from 3, and then was 1 for 1 on the free throw line. He had 3 rebounds, though, a big block, counting for 2 blocks, and then a steal. He did pretty good for him being a true freshman and not logging that many minutes. When you look at the Tennessee game that I'll preview tomorrow, are we going to be put in a position where we start 4 guards again? Or are we going to start Vanover and Williams? Or are we going to start Vanover and Vance? It's just a really interesting situation that I'm not 100% confident where the Razorbacks are going to go. But very positive from this game was Jalen Williams played really good and really experienced, and he looked like an SEC basketball player out there. So I definitely think you can, start utilizing that back into conference play. But JT Notte was the leading scorer with 19 points, and then he was 6 from 18 from the floor. So even if you have a guy like him putting up 19 points, 6 from 18 from the floor, that's unheard of for him shooting at 33%. He's been a guy at 40, 50 in a lot of our games. It was a cold day for the Razorbacks, and Missouri just kept bringing the heat in the paint with the forwards of Jeremiah Tillman, and then I think there's another one, Kobe Brown. They just performed really well against us, and sure, they are the number 12 ranked team in the nation, and they came to Fayetteville and showed, the AP voters why they are number 12 in the nation. I mean, you can debate their position in the rankings all you want, but when you have guys, like Xavier Pinson and Jeremiah Tillman dropping 23 and 25 respectively, it's hard to stop them. I mean, Xavier Pinson went to the line 15 times and made 12 times. That's impressive from, any guy when you capitalize off those opportunities that you're given based off of the other team fouling a ton. I think a lot of people are going to be over-concerned about this game. I mean, you can kind of tell in the tone of my voice that it's not the same if we won this game. If we won this game, it would be different here, and, I'd be pumped up, and, I wouldn't be recording this on a Sunday night. I'd probably be like right after the game. It'd be awesome. You can tell in my tone of voice that I'm kind of down, but I'm not overly concerned. I think this team has a lot of potential. You look at the second half against Auburn, and we performed pretty well without Justin Smith. You got to look at that tape and see what we did there compared to what we did against Missouri and what changed. Now, for the Razorbacks to be able to rebound, it's not going to be easy. We go to number 7 Tennessee, who just got beat by Alabama. And the interesting part about Alabama is they don't really have a big, paint presence guys on the court. And they beat a team like Tennessee that does. So I think that's important to realize that Tennessee is beatable, but I think it's going to be tough task for the Razorbacks. I don't know if they're going to be able to get it done. But then you move on to Georgia at home. I feel like that's a very winnable game and will be an opportunity to rebound if we, don't against Tennessee. I think, though, the biggest part about this all is you're going to have bad days. And this was a bad day for the Razorbacks. They couldn't shoot against the number 12 team ranked in the nation. This season is not done. Keep your heads up. There is hope for this team. We went 9-0 for a reason. I know we played easy opponents, but we got a pretty good win at Auburn in SEC play, and going on the road and dropping 97 is not something that you usually do, and then turn around and shoot, 25%. I think there's a lot of takeaway from this game, though, and sure, you can blame it on a ton of different factors and, all this other stuff, but at the end of the day, basketball is a team sport. I just don't think you can pinpoint this loss on a single player, on a single guy on this team, because it was just a bad performance for the Razorbacks on Saturday morning. You always look to bounce back after tough losses, and I feel like this can kind of be a reality check and say, hey, we went 9-0 and we were really happy, but then, we had a bad shoot around on Friday, and look what happened Saturday morning when we played. We shot 25%. I think this team will adjust. I feel like they were working on a ton of stuff Saturday night, working on stuff today on Sunday, and then I'm sure when you're listening to this on Monday, they're also working on stuff. Eric Musselman is a fantastic head coach, and his knowledge of basketball and advanced statistics is one that might be uncommon in some places. He shares that with his Twitter followers, and you look at those stats when he usually posts them after wins. He didn't post any after this game. But a lot of things for the Razorbacks are going to be taken out of this one. But that being said, I feel like there's definitely a lot of hope and potential still in the rise. We're still 9-1. We're 1-1 in conference play. There's no reason to say that we're done for and we can't win the SEC. I want to see more of how this team plays without Justin Smith before I start making assumptions. One game isn't the whole season. The whole season is 18 conference games for a reason. We got a lot to work on, though, and I think we'll see a better performance against Tennessee. I think it's going to be a hard game, though. I'll preview that on tomorrow's episode, and then on Friday, I'll be talking about that Tennessee game, and then previewing Georgia for the basketball. And then I'm also going to get a football review out sometime either this week, possibly, or next week. I'm not really sure. I got to check with a couple different things. But I know I kind of sounded down here. I just had a lot to talk about in this game, and it definitely wasn't, the most uplifting stuff to talk about. But that is all for today's episode on All Hog Sports Pod. You can find Always Listen and my Twitter at allhogsports.com. And as always, we'll pig.
That's all for today's episode of All Hog Sports with Sam Stimpson. Make sure to stay tuned for the next episode covering all Arkansas Razorback sports. If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe and leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Follow us on social media too. On Twitter and Instagram at All Hog Sports Pod. Like on Facebook at All Hog Sports and Arkansas Razorbacks Podcast. And on YouTube at that same name. Thanks for tuning in to today's episode. Go Hogs!